What comes to mind when you think about Rwandan art? Do you imagine themes of war, genocide, or reconciliation? On my quest to better understand and appreciate the Rwandan art scene, I visited 2 art galleries in Kigali, the country's capital, and here's what I learned. I must confess, I'm by no means an art buff, but I've been working hard to better appreciate art and the nuances behind artistic works. Art has always seemed so unattainable and high class for me, and I never believed that I would appreciate and understand the art space until recently. Working with friends and art galleries across Africa, I've made it a priority to visit as many artistic spaces as possible. I would be lying if I said I understand what I'm looking at when I see most artworks. I know very little about color combinations, motivation behind artworks, or even what the brush strokes mean. This hasn't stopped me from going the extra mile to connect with artists and their works. I'm sure you might have a similar story to mine. If you're interested, I might turn this into a series exploring art galleries across Africa and maybe the world. I had my expectations of what Rwandese art should be before coming to Rwanda, and I couldn't have been farther from the truth. On my first day in Kigali, before visiting anywhere else, I visited the Niyo art gallery. Due to my awful timekeeping, my friend Mayowa and I ended up going to the art gallery at night or in the evening. And entering Niyo was a surreal experience. As with many houses in Kigali, the property is physically lower than the street, so there's a slope entering the compound. Past the gates, you can find the cafe or restaurant. Unfortunately, it did not occur to me to make videos of the space, but believe me when I say it's beautiful. Mayowa and I had some tea after our visit. Entry is free, and the folks at the gallery were cool and left us to explore the space undisturbed. At the entrance, there was an interesting looking tree. Do you think it's alive or an art installation? I have no idea. There was an exhibition taking place during my visit, and it consisted of female artists across East Africa, and I was happy to come at the right time when these works were being exhibited, because not only do I get to experience Rwandese art, but art from other countries within the region. I just noticed that I haven't mentioned, but I visited Niyo Art Gallery with my friend and personal helper, Mayowa, the richest woman in Jos and now Kigali. I must confess that when I imagined what Rwandan art might entail, I always pictured themes of pain, loss, and survival. Looking back, this was a simplistic way of putting an entire country's artwork or art space into a box. Rwanda has slowly solidified its position as a regional arts capital, attracting talents from across the sub-region and beyond. Rwandan art can be anything the artist wished to create, and I discovered themes of happiness, hope, femininity, and more during my visits to Niyo Art Gallery. We visited the cafe, had some tea, and had a generally great time. On our way back home, I couldn't help but wonder how much more I would need to unlearn and learn about the Rwandan art space during my visit to Inema Art Gallery. Art galleries can be intimidating, especially for those of us who would consider ourselves outsiders. Inema Art Gallery was one of the most recommended by friends who had visited Kigali in the past, and I could not wait to visit. It's located in an upscale part of town, and Enema's entryway was colorful, and it made me feel ready for an adventure. At the entrance, I met a massive dog. I was scared for a second, but then I realized he's a giant sweetheart. Unfortunately, he was not interested in me. When I tried to pet him, he just stood up and left. He had other things to do. He was the king, and I was stressing him. I learned of 3 or 4 main types of Rwandese art, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher the names or the pronunciation. The first is Imigongo. The next type of Rwandese art is Isheri or Amatera. Next up, we have Ise Tabe. The final Rwandese art type is Ibiyo Beiro. Apologies to all the Rwandans out there. The artworks on display at Inema Art Gallery could not have been more different than those on display at Niyo. And it made me truly understand that Rwandan art is more diverse than we could have ever thought, or I could have ever thought. The Ugandan lady, unfortunately I've forgotten her name, took me around the ground floor, explaining some of the artworks, the thought processes behind them, and the artists behind these works. She offered to walk me around the top floor, but I opted to explore the top floor alone because I felt more comfortable making videos without witnesses. As I walked up the staircase, a soothing sound echoed through the speakers placed throughout the gallery, and it was a beautiful experience to take in. The balcony overlooked Kacyiru, one of Rwanda's most expensive neighborhoods, and you could see the world-famous golf course from it. It goes without saying that the ambience was dampened by the ongoing construction work taking place next door. But it was an enjoyable experience nonetheless. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to talk less because I feel like Inema Art Gallery is best explored in silence. Explore and enjoy Inema on your own with my guidance. There is no better way to enjoy Inema Art Gallery than alone in silence. If you plan to visit Rwanda soon, this art gallery is a must visit. But ensure you dedicate enough time to soak the scenery and artworks in. I met the owner/curator of the art gallery on my way out. She's an older European lady and we interacted for a few seconds. On my way out, I was asked to make a donation if I could, and I promptly did. I cannot remember how much I donated because I used a lot of currencies in the space of a month, but I was more than happy to do it. I met the cute dog again, but once again, bro wasn't interested in conversing with me, and I left him to roll his domain in peace. If you're still here, thank you for sticking with me. This video is a bit of a long one, but moving on, we're going to stick with this concept of having videos of at least 10-11 minutes so I can better explain and walk you through these experiences. My main takeaway from visiting Niyo and Inema art galleries was art galleries aren't necessarily scary places reserved for only art snobs and people who know better than the rest of us. Everyday people like myself can walk into art galleries anywhere in the world, with permission obviously, and nobody cares enough to judge you for being rough around the edges. Everyone I met and asked questions were more than willing to explain and help out. Ensure you watch the next video in our East African adventure. Now, it's a Rwandese wedding and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Bye for now.